Hi, welcome to this video where we're going to show you how to paint the inside of a mason jar. And I'm here with CJ. She's going to help me. This is just going to show you how easy this is, that even she can help me out with this. So I was doing some research online and I saw some really cool videos for how and online instructions for how to paint the inside of mason jars. And it seems like a lot of people recommended to use spray paint. So I don't know if you can really see this, but I tried it and I wasn't really happy with the consistency of it. It left some streaks. It didn't exactly dry on the inside. So I did some more research and I found that actually pouring paint in and kind of spinning it around actually seemed to work better. So I'm going to show you how to do it today. What you're going to need is a couple mason jars, which we have here, right? We also have this clear spray, which we're going to use as a base coat. So I know I said I don't like spray paint, but I think to get a good coat of primer on there first. So why don't you hold that? And then I actually have two different kind of paints. So this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. So I had some leftover brick red colored flat paint, acrylic based. And then I also have this enamel exterior clear white paint as well. So we're actually going to try both. Before you start, what I do recommend is really cleaning your mason jars with soap and water, and then also a bottle of rubbing alcohol. So we actually already did that. And so what I'm going to show you in a minute is how to use the clear gloss spray, this spray paint, and then we'll be back in a minute.
Hi guys, I've been shaking this camera 2 minutes.
Show them how you shake it. Yep. Okay. So this is a really important thing, and something that I learned in spray painting is you have to be patient. So I've tried this a couple different times, and you end up with streaks and smears. And so what I found is just take it slow. I'm not going to show you every coat, but I'm probably going to end up doing 2 coats of paint here, just because it takes so long. So you don't want to put a whole lot in. So what I generally do is just do a quick spray. And you kind of just want to get around each side of it, just enough to coat the inside. All we're trying to do is, in effect, use this as a primer and a base coat so that when we put the paint on the inside, it'll have something to stick to. So we'll just do the other one. And again, all you want to do is just keep it to a minimum. You don't want to put a whole lot in. If you see it starting to run, that means you've probably put too much on. So we'll just give it a couple more sprays. And what's really cool about this is it doesn't end up looking any different than what it did before. So we're going to let this sit for about maybe 10-15 minutes, and then we'll be back. Hi, we're back. It's been about, I actually decided to wait about an hour on these jars, and CJ is doing what she does best, which is what?
Shaking up the paint.
Yep, shaking up the paint. So we'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to show you these mason jars look exactly the same. So even with the clear gloss paint, nothing's really different about them. They're just clear glass. But now the paint has something better to stick to. So we had our red, brick red. This is just latex paint that we're going to try one on. And we also have the exterior semi-gloss enamel paint that we're going to try, and that's in the white. So what I found to be the least messy is to actually pour a little bit of paint into some other kind of cup. So in this case, we're just going to use some styrofoam cups. So CJ, what should we do first, the red or the white?
Red.
The red, okay.
Because red's
So,
my favorite color.
I think you already shook that up, right? Okay, so this will be interesting because I think I have not used this paint in a couple of years. It's just been sitting in my garage, so it looked decent enough. So we will just pour a little bit in. We don't need a whole lot. So CJ, you want to show everybody how much paint we put in there while I'm getting the other paint ready? It's not very much. Okay, so we'll put that down.
I think this red looks nice.
Yeah, it should look like bricks.
Yeah,
okay, so I loosened this before. So this is our white. It's high gloss white, so what we're going to do, and this will probably be messy. We get a little bit of that white in there. Try not to smear it all over the place. You want to show everybody how nice and white that is. Get this.
I don't know if you can see because it looks the same.
Yeah, it does kind of look the same, huh? So let's get this paint out of here, because that's going to make a mess. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to have CJ pour that paint into our mason jar. So if you want to just pour it in. Let's start with just a little bit. Okay, and we are coating the bottom of the mason jar. We may need a little bit more after we're done. So let's put that down. Okay, purposely only put a little bit in, as you can see, because this is going to run real slow, and this is where you have to be really patient. So you want to get kind of the feel for the paint and see how it's going to cover. In this case, it didn't cover very well. So the other thing that I actually forgot to do is to put some painter's tape around. We want to put the painter's tape around the neck, because what we do not want to do is to get any of the paint on the outside, because it will actually be very tough to get off. So what I'm going to do is simply work the tape around the neck, and you want to press it down as firmly as you can, because we do not want the neck or the outside to get paint on it, because we are going for a nice gloss finish on the inside. I didn't explain this at the beginning of the video, but there's really two different ways that you can do this. If you put the paint on the outside of the jar, you'll get a matte finish, so you'll get kind of a dark and kind of flat looking look to it. But if you go on the inside, this is why I like the inside much better, is you maintain the shiny finish of the jar, but you still get the paint on the inside. So I think what we're going to end up doing here, just for the sake of time, is I'm going to pour right from our container into the jar. CJ, can you put the lid on that? And as you can see, this paint is really thick. And you can hopefully see it rolling around a little bit better now. What we're going to do is we are just going to continue to coat the jar. I liken this almost to kind of a Pepto-Bismol look. So what we want to do is just watch it slowly coat around in there. And what you have to do is you just have to be careful that you don't get it all over the place. You don't want it to spill outside the jar, but you also want it to coat very evenly. Looks like we actually got a little bit of paint on the outside somehow. We'll get that cleaned off. So,
can I do it?
Yes. So why don't you work on that a little bit? What you want to do, and if you have one of your kids helping, is you want to make sure that they do not get the paint on the outside. So while we're watching that, I'm going to fill up the paint jar with our latex semi-gloss, non-enamel. And we are going to do the same exact thing with the painter's tape. We are just going to put the painter's tape around the outside of the neck. There's no reason. I'm not the most careful person in the entire world, but I have seen some people actually cover the entire jar. And while I think it's always better to be safe than sorry, I actually find that to be a little bit excessive. I think it's pretty unlikely that you are going to spill significantly on the outside. And again, when you are doing this with a third grader or a second grader, or really any younger kid, maybe it is better to be safe than sorry. So again, So we have it covered, and again, hopefully you can see, it's just going to coat the inside. And okay, this looks pretty covered. As you can see, this almost looks like it's filled with like tomato juice or something. You got a very dark red. Yes, do you want to work on that one a little bit? Yeah. And I'm just going to switch over here. You can see we don't have it quite covered to the top. And what it takes is just a little bit of patience. So rather than having you watch us do this, what we're going to do is we're going to finish this up. We'll come back in about 5 minutes or so when we have these completely covered and show you our progress. So we're back and just finishing up. One thing I wanted to show you is the neck. Getting the neck is actually probably the trickiest part. You really just want to take your time. As you can see, it's kind of slowly coming down. What you want to do is, as it's coming down, you want to have your jar tilted slightly, but you're going to just have to pay attention because you do not want it to drip out over the edge. So we're getting close to being done, and CJ over there is working on the white one. So hopefully this gives you everything you need to get this covered. And I think all that will be left is really to show you what this looks like after it dries. I found that if I'm careful, I don't have to, I don't put too much paint in. I know some people say to leave it kind of upside down and let it dry. I try to be kind of careful with the paint. So we'll be back. I think I'm going to let this dry overnight. So we'll be back in the morning just to show you how they look after drying overnight.
We're back.
Yep, so we're back. I realized that I lied about two things. One, I said that I always put in just enough paint and never really have to dump it out. So I lied about that. I realized I put in way too much paint. So there's probably more professional ways to do this, but basically I just have a styrofoam cup, the mason jar, dumping in, and you can see it really put a lot of paint in. And so what we're going to do, and I also lied, and I said I was going to wait till morning. It'll dry overnight, but I just got antsy and wanted to be able to show this. So what we're going to do in the last step, assuming that you would have let this dry, would be to just take the masking tape off. So what we're going to do is I just want to show you how nice this looks. You are not going to take the masking tape off. I really like the look of these jars. I realize there's a light in the background, but I love the milk glass look to it. Again, if you would have painted on the outside, it gives it more of a matte finish, but you maintain the gloss finish this way. And this is our brick red. I'm starting to think this kind of looks like a jar full of tomatoes. So I think there's probably some cool stuff that we could do with that. And so really all that's left to do is to just take the painter's tape off. You want to be careful because sometimes you can get some paint that's along the top and it'll just pull away. I guess with the latex paint, the interior paint that I used, the good thing about this is that if you get any on the outside, you can just wipe it off because of the glass finish. That's really cool. And then we'll take the red off in a minute. I'm just getting rid of this tape because inevitably you end up with paint all over your hands, no matter how careful you are. At least for me, you can never be careful enough and end up with too much paint all over the place. So hopefully you can see we're getting a nice finish on the outside. And so this, again, as a reminder, we did the enamel was in red. We did the interior latex in white. I honestly can't tell the difference. Can you? No, so I'll show you as close as you can tell. I can't really tell the difference between the two. So my ultimate recommendation is if you have leftover paint, go ahead and use it. If you want to buy it, maybe go ahead and get whatever is cheaper. But hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, my videos really show you the imperfect side of crafting. You know, most normal people can't get these things right, but I just want to show you that you can get it about 90% right, and it's good enough. So, you want to tell everybody goodbye, CJ?
Goodbye.